Welcome to Real Estate Wisdom Podcast, episode number 7. I'm your host, Vishal Kapoor, a realtor who's dedicated to bringing you valuable insights and information from the real estate world. In today's episode, we will be discussing a profession that complements real estate, relocation services. Canada is a land of immigrants, and people are constantly moving here. Some have friends and family to rely on, while others need assistance, especially in corporate relocations. Today, I have the privilege of introducing Sergei Kouniev, a seasoned relocation consultant who will share his expertise in the world of relocation and provide valuable insights. Sergei is a multilingual professional with extensive experience in destination services, client service, and international business development. Let's dive into the world of relocation and gain some valuable wisdom. Welcome, Sergei.
Thank you, Vishal, and I'm happy to see you again.
Happy to see
How are
you,
you,
just
buddy?
like us. I'm doing fantastic. And I know you always driving me, and we have some great chat while we're going and showing properties to
That's all
our
true.
while showing our properties to our clients. I relax, I sit down, and he drives around, and I'll just show the properties and have a chit chat.
Yeah, just because you're in the right hands.
Right, absolutely, always. But I have to warn you, how you're driving sometimes, right? So I'm your
Thank you
a
for
second
saying
eye. So, how long we know each other? I think it's 7-8 years now, right?
Yeah, it should be 7 years or even more.
Right. I still remember how I met you. I met you at the networking event, and that's where we got connected. And when you approached first time to me, and your impression about realtors were a little bit different.
That's true. That's all true. And it was a great start for the future great experience. And I'm happy we started to work together because finally we found the right algorithm and the right common approach, and things start to work smoothly.
Yeah, what impressed me about you is you are a guy of system and processes. Your emails and your communication style, it's very impressive, and which give me some insight as well, how I should be communicating with my clients. So I think what we created, the template, it's working out pretty well, and I believe I lost the count how many clients we have did. I believe more than 30-40 clients we have done so far.
I believe still more.
Actually
in
more,
fact,
right?
yes, actually more. I don't have the statistics right now in front of me, but during these years, the volume was even bigger.
Yes.
And for me, it looks like a win-win story because we really managed to fine-tune the process, to adapt the process to all kind of challenges that surround us, and it makes the whole thing quite comfortable. I hope it makes the thing comfortable for our customers.
Oh, definitely, they do. I know a lot of realtors, they don't do leases, and there's more paperwork and more process in place rather than buying a house. So I think that system, what we have created, and that's create the sales pipeline for me as well. It's working out pretty good. But this is all about us, what we do. And my question to you is people who are watching and listening is relocation services. Why relocation services? And there's a big I just want to know what your specific work which you do. Because there are people, when think relocation services, they think all kind of stuff they involve in immigration, getting visas, and all that stuff, which I know which you don't do. So what your role is, and you work with the other companies, or you do your own work as well? I know I'm going to tell about you also a co-founder, right? Co-founder of and the Prime Destination Services.
True.
So.
We specialize in providing tailor-made destination packages.
Right.
And our services, they can be categorized in 3 major parts. The first one is definitely finding the right homes and getting the lease done.
Right.
And in this area, we collaborate very closely with Vishal, and we are successful in that.
Right.
The second part is all related the documentary process. It's the so-called settling in part. We help to get the right paperwork in the first days and in the first weeks upon arrival.
Right.
So it's not a big deal. It just takes some time and some efforts, but preparation to this step is critically important. And the third part, it's all about a tailor-made thing, because every single person or every single family coming to Canada, of course, they have their own priorities, they have their personal requirements or needs.
Right.
So we doing our best to adapt each program to these personal priorities, and we're really good in that.
Oh, but perfect. Like that's that's what the segue from there is. I really want to get into things like relocation services. They provide different kind of services, and can you explain a little bit like the process, how it works? Like when they these companies will reach out to you, the global organization who are assisting the corporate clients, when they reach out to you, and what's your process look like?
In the best case scenario, it should happen pretty early as each time we need to go through preparation period, pre-departure period, because it always takes time to get the paperwork done, to bring all the documents, in some cases to translate documents into English or French if they're in different language, or most of the time based on experience with various local institutions, it's a lengthy process to get the documents from Ministry of Transportation or any other unit like this in any country. So we need to start early. And this is a very important part that we call homework, because if you prepare your homework, if it's well done, I can promise you that the rest of the process, when you arrive in Canada, when you start to settle in here, will be pretty smooth and stressful.
Yeah, I agree with what you said.
Stressless.
Yeah, not the stressful. Stressful is when they're not prepared and they don't know what they're doing.
It's still doable. It is still doable, but it takes much more efforts.
Yeah,
and it can be some kind of nervous thing for everyone.
Oh, for sure. Well, what I like about the system and process, what we have put in on place, especially you did, I get the time, you already have interviewed them, you had the Zoom meeting with them or whatever means you did your meetings with, and then you educating them, and then you introducing me when it comes to the part of finding the homes and stuff. But before that, you do a lot of homework, and you come to know. I'm lucky in that way, because for me, it's come to the home part, but now you know what my expectations are. And how I prepared, that I don't do showings of properties until have all the paperwork on hand, and I know my clients and customer, their needs better, and then we proceed that way. So
I believe we know the process well from both sides, and it helps to keep it on the same wave.
Exactly. And we're not stepping on, we speaking the same language, it's the extension of our my services and your services. It feels like the extension of service as one team, and that really helped. We got so many great reviews from our clients, how happy they will feel when somebody holding their hand and guiding them what to do, what not to do. So I think what you mentioned is having preparation is the key. And
Absolutely,
if you're not prepared, then we find a hurdle. Sometimes we have issues, the clients, you send the emails and they don't read it, right? And then you have to explain again.
People are busy. Challenge. That's the joint challenge.
Right. So, how you handle that kind of stuff? When you're not getting the response what you're looking for, and how you handle that?
Well, my tool is pretty simple. I'm just providing the proper follow-up, and if I understand that in terms of timing, we need to complete the step, but for some reason things doesn't go further, I'm just contacting the customer. I'm explaining the priority. I'm checking the matter, the status of the matter, and I'm bring an advice if required, what needs to be done and how we can do it faster. Actually, everything what we do is based on two core things: a deep understanding of the relocation business and its nature, and on the local knowledge. Because in every single country, and I would say even in every single city, the rules can be different. And our strength, one of our strengths, is in the knowledge of the shortcuts. We understand how to run fast, how to do things and complete steps really fast. And a typical cycle for settling in usually takes about just 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, in these 2 weeks, our customers, they open bank accounts, they get all the paperwork done, they exchange driver licenses, and they do lots of things.
Yeah.
So technically, any person can do the whole thing, the same thing, without any support.
Yeah.
But based on experience, it may take lengthy months, and the quantity of mistakes and the times when you need to go back and forth and not following the right chronology is tremendous.
Before I go to the next thing, what I will say, make eye contact with me. Okay. Yep. So we have the conversation.
One thing happened because I was supposed to mention three.
I'm coming to that point.
And we focused on home search because you started this part, and we completely missed the two other parts.
Okay.
And I think if we separate the three, maybe we can record the piece about three parts, because it's much better to keep 1, 2, 3 together.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. So where we...
it was right in the beginning. It was about relocation services or destination services. And we're not recording.
Recording is keep on going on that. So don't worry about that. So that's a bloopers.
So we... can I re-record this, Fred?
Well, that's it's you mentioned it. Preparation is the key, and we talk about that. And I like this structure part because a 3-section is divided when to do what. In that, I just want to come over here. Listeners who are listening or watching would say, what are the key steps or documents that individuals should prepare before immigrating to Ontario or Canada?
Well, my reply could be a very long one, but let me try to keep things short and simple.
I know you love to talk, and I know I have to stop you.
In some
because
cases.
This episode, the 2 episodes we did, it's gone in 2 section. With him, it's probably go a 3 maybe.
That's true. So one of the first steps we always complete when we start to work on the program, when we first meet, not in person, but usually it's a Zoom call. I'm sharing a document called Document Checklist, and this document covers all the steps, all the parts of the process, and clearly explains which exactly documents need to be provided for every single step. So it's a 2-page document, not too long, not too short, but it covers everything. And then, of course, in real life, people can have all the documents or just part of them. It's very important to understand what is missing. It's very important to understand if it's possible to get the missing parts. If physically not, we still can provide a solution.
Okay. Well,
that's the approach.
Yeah, the approach is right, and I know we talk about that. Then challenges. What time happens is some of the countries, for example, in our case, they need a credit report. Right?
Yes.
And some of the countries, they don't have credit report, and
They just
or
not using this.
yeah, and or like those credit report is like in a different language sometimes, and sometimes it's not appropriate. Like we consider that, or landlord will consider that. So in those cases, like we come out with some creative solutions how we do it. I don't mind like sharing with them like anybody else as well, but there's always a solution, and
Which requires a big portion of flexibility, I would say, because every single case, I'm repeating this, as we see it, it's unique. And
Right.
every program is not standard, it's tailor-made and pretty well adapted to not only to priorities, but also to your situation, documentary situation, and all kind of.
For sure. I think like the process, what I like about that, you prepare them, all the documents and everything. Your initial email goes out to them when you're introducing me. You're already sending them what document will required, when they will be signing, when we'll be doing a deposit. You also doing the area tour. To show them like
This is another step, yes.
This is the another
upon
step.
arrival, yeah.
Upon
And
arrival.
sometimes we do it, sometimes
We don't, right.
We don't have time allocated for this, so we can skip, but ideally we make an area tour and we show the city, we show different parts of the city, and I'm talking not about Toronto only, I'm talking about various cities in
GTA, right?
GTA,
In GTA,
even
like
more
Greater
than
Toronto
GTA,
area.
yes.
We did more than GTA, but like we try to focus
Mostly
on
GTA, yeah.
That's where we know things and we can provide that personal service. And I love that, like how you quickly build a relationship with your clients, and you're giving that personal experience. And where the good restaurants are, knowing that what kind of people they are, what kind of restaurant they're going to like, what kind of school or environment they're going to look like. And that's what the thing is, like it's about understanding your client needs very closely, their lifestyle, because they're moving from other country, and sometimes it's the cultural differences.
Other
most of
country
the
and
time.
other culture.
Most of the
it's
time.
not just the language, but most of the time it's something very cultural.
And like-
yes, it's a big move.
It's
everyone,
system
yeah.
system is different. How they're even people coming from US or Mexico, which is closer,
Right.
They find it different. Oh, I don't want to give the
That's true.
my credit report, or sometimes it happens. I don't want to pay post-dated checks, and I don't want to do that. We feel that resistance, but we explain them like how safe it is, and we working on their behalf to get the better advantage to them, because there's a competition over here. Like right now, the rental market's so hot, and most of the time, the rental market is hot over here, and to finding the right property, and then the process begins, right? So
What is really important, and we know it from many cases we worked on together,
Right.
It is highly important to work as one team. And when I'm talking about one team, I mean not just Vishal and myself, I'm talking about the customer as well. If we've managed to form and create one team and work together, I promise you the result will be much, much better, and you will get much more advice and more services. And that's the way how it works.
Yeah.
And I also know that it is very important that to build trust. And this kind of thing is very challenging because, in fact, we need to build this trust in a very short period of time.
that's
which
the
normally
thing.
doesn't happen. But in
Yeah.
this business, you have to run fast and building trust really fast.
For sure. One thing I'll say, like close to the mic, so in that way the voice don't vary, like going back and forth. So just
Okay.
have to be a little bit stationary. But that's the technical part. Like so, we come to the other questions, and most of the people have those. What are some common challenges that newcomers face when settling in Ontario, and how can your services help address them?
It can be a long list of challenges, in fact, because of course relocation.
I know my
As
part.
we
Like,
talked before, yes, we all have this experience, personal
Right.
experience. You came here, I came here some years ago.
yeah,
and
we all immigrants over
we're
here.
all
so.
in the same boat, and this is good because through your personal experience, then you add your professional skills and your local expertise, and it works all together.
Well, you
pretty
just mentioned, I stopped counting that more than 50 to 100 people we helped so far. And so each one of them have a different experience, which we take and we apply to the next one and say, hey, these are the mistakes. It could have happened.
Yeah.
Just like a real estate, every transaction is different. Every client is different. And they have a different challenges. Some people are pretty flexible and they are willing to cooperate.
Flexible and adaptive. Yeah.
Adaptive, but also because we're dealing with the high executives and people, they are busy people, right?
Yeah.
They don't have a
Yeah.
time. So what are we doing over here? Like, I'm trying to, sometimes I like it's traffic, sometimes it's
Right.
no traffic. We just maneuvering and trying to reach the destination on time and safely, right? That's our goal for our clients, right? So
Getting back to challenges,
Yeah.
even having a long list of small challenges, I would at least mention the big one, the starting point, because it's very typical, and practically all people relocating to Canada, they facing the same kind of story. It's a challenge related to getting the lease done. Just for one reason that, based on experience, most of the local landlords here, they just prefer to have some local tenants with local credit story, with local rental story available, and they're not very excited about having an expat, a foreign tenant. So our job, together with Vishal, each time is to convince that Mr. John Smith is the best tenant for you, and here is the paperwork. And then if we are missing some part of the paperwork, we still know what can be offered on top to convince the landlord case by case that here is the solution, the best solution, and it works. Otherwise, a landlord would say, okay, but how can I get my payments? It's all about money. In the end of the day, they don't want to take the risk. They want to be safe on the safe side. And
well,
that's
it's come to the
story.
housing part, like, which is my my bread
story.
and butter and my story, and the reason behind those challenges are like, and it's very thanks to our good system, like where the tenants are supported more and they have more protection,
Yeah.
which is a good thing, landlord tenant board. But at the same time, it's not making easier for our landlords. So landlords become very cautious because so many people coming in, and there's shortage, and sometimes they don't know which person have the right documents, and are they able to pay? Biggest challenge is it, and even they pay and their documents, when the time come, would they able to say, lease is done, we don't want to rent anymore, and then you can go. And
Yep.
but the challenges in happening is like in rental market is it's humongous, and the price is changing. 25% to 30% increase in rental market.
A year.
It's become challenging, and a lot of time happens is like people who coming from other countries, they have done, thanks to internet, like they have done, but the internet doesn't give you all the information, so they don't know how much it's going to cost them. They have certain
I would say
budgets,
it
right?
gives you too much information, and then it's impossible to understand which part is the correct one, the right one.
No, exactly, that's what happens. Like a lot of time it happen over here, like we have this much budget, like, and that's what they talk about. The budget is, I want to have the 2-bedroom apartment for $2,500 or $2,000. That's my budget is. With executives, like they have the higher budget, but at the same time the expectation is higher as well. They're looking for the mansion for $5,000-6,000, right? And knowing
True.
Toronto area, Greater Toronto area, it's getting more challenging. And even you're paying the higher, you're getting the right property based on what they're looking for. Everybody has some perceptions. But when they come over here and see in reality what it is, like, and then it becomes a little bit challenging. And some people have like the very decent low expectations, and then they come, they're very adaptable to the environment. They're very adaptable to a kind of housing they're going to get. So those challenges are the real one we deal with every single day. And our job is to make sure that how smooth we can make it. If we have all those documents and able to communicate with our clients, these are the challenges and how we're going to maneuver.
And here is the second challenge coming. I would like to mention, because most of the people, they have a chance. Everyone has a chance to use internet, as Vishal said, and get the information from internet directly. And of course, everything related to settling in is properly described. All the processes are properly described in various official sources.
Right.
The critical thing about this, it's a huge amount of information. It's a deep sea, it's a high mountain, and you can lose yourself, you can lose lots of time while finding the little right portion which is relevant to you and to your situation, to your case. So our job is to make sure that you just get the right portion filtered out and properly prepared, a short summary that will explain what needs to be done, what kind of documents you need to bring, where to go, what time to go, etc., etc. And that's it. You don't need to go deep inside all the websites like Canada.com and others.
When you hiring the professional, again, that's what you're looking for, because you for professional advice, and instead of maneuvering here and there and wasting your time, you can get the one destination. And that's why I love the name which you give, the Prime Destination Services.
Thank you.
And that's great. But
that's the concept, yes.
That's the concept. But at the same time, talking about the documents. So what are the most basic documents? This is a quiz for you, because now I could have answered that, but I want you to answer.
Okay.
What documents they will need.
So when you arrive, you will need to get your social insurance number. It's a document similar to SSN in the US. Some people know this kind of form. So social insurance number will be required for the bank, for many other occasions, for getting an access to various financial tools. And it's a strictly confidential data. You're not supposed to share your number with anyone except your employer and the bank. So this is one of the first steps, and we always help to get it done fast. It can be done both online or offline in person.
Right.
So once again, depending on your situation,
I think
they're
doing it. I think they're doing it at the airport these days too, right? So right away.
It depends.
How busy is that?
This is actually the best option and the easiest one, I would say, if you're lucky enough, if your flight is not too late or not too early.
Yeah.
So if it is during the office hours, and if the crowd there is not so big, but based on experience, quite frequently it's doable right there, and then you save lots of time. You get your SIN immediately upon arrival. But once again, some people, they have really long flights and they feel so tired after the flight, they're not ready to spend more time at the airport. So we're pretty flexible with that, and we can propose.
I know, some of your clients, when you get your hours get allocated, depending upon how many hours you're getting and what kind of services they're going to need. Once they get the social insurance number, which you inform them from the very starting, you set up the appointment with the bank in advance.
In advance, before coming, yes. So. And we do so based on your choice of the bank, and for making your choice, you will get a summary explaining the bank system in Canada and making some simple recommendations and a short list of the best banks to consider.
Right.
As soon as you pick up your bank and tell it to us, we can book an appointment up front. And it's a really good tool because it allows to open the bank account typically on the second or third day upon arrival, really fast. And also you make an application for a credit card on the same day, and then you're free to go. You can start doing things, and you can start building your credit story, the local Canadian credit story, which is critically important.
Which is very
for
critically
many
important.
aspects. Yeah.
The other aspect of that, is basically opening the bank account. What I ask usually is having the funds in there to pay your
The future
deposit
deposit.
for
Yes.
your rental unit, right, or the house, and usually that is like a first month and last month, and legally they cannot ask landlord like more than last month deposit and first month in advance. But in some cases happen when they don't have the credit score. We ask maybe we can do the volunteer offer to make landlord feel secure. It could be more like extra month in advance, second last month, so they will feel better. But also our job is to put a profile. When after that, you mentioned about the SIN number, and we open the bank account and having the funds.
There are two more documents still.
What other two documents you need?
But typically we start working on them later on upon getting the permanent address, upon getting the lease signed.
Right.
Because you need the address. So it's health insurance.
Right.
Health insurance in Ontario, the program is called OHIP, Ontario Health Insurance Program.
Right.
And for getting this coverage, you need to have your permanent address in Ontario first. So the good thing, if previously it took up to 3 months of waiting for getting the coverage during the pandemic, during
But for that,
COVID,
they,
it
for
was
OHIP,
waived.
yeah. But for
So no
OHIP,
waiting time.
but
Yeah.
for OHIP, don't they need they need a permanent address to be right? And I think the process after that, which I ask for usually, it's prepare our clients having the job letter. Also,
there is
work.
a definite list of documents. Yes,
Yeah.
I would
So-
say let's not go too deep into these details
Yeah.
because there would be too many details. But everything is recorded.
Yeah, I'm just
everything is
looking
on the list.
Yeah, I'm just talking about because my realtor minds work all the time, right? So documents which I required usually is like a job letter. If they have the credit score, that's great. And if they have references over here, which is
References,
two
yeah.
references, I fill out the rental application, and that's a process. And I ask rental application, so in that way we know what things are missing, which they missed it, so I
Yeah.
can ask again. And if it's not available, then what are the alternatives, right? So
And in many
preparing them,
cases,
right.
we also ask to share a family picture, nice family picture that we show to the landlord, and we know it really helps to build the first
Impression.
initial emotional link.
For sure,
and
for sure.
to proceed further.
And I know we so many a beautiful families, it's when people see that, and we also encourage to have sometimes the landlord is not available in person to meet them, and before we do that, we offer them to do the Zoom interview, so they can see and can feel who they're giving their valuable property
Right.
to live, right?
Right.
So documents, we talk about that. A lot of documents needed, but these are some major ones which will be required. I know this after the documents, there are other things which needed to be done. So I'm coming to I'm just talking about my part, mostly on the housing. But my question to you, what other services you provide?
I will be glad to tell you about the services, but before doing this, I still need to mention one more documentary challenge, and it's a really special part, so-called my favorite part, because it is much more tricky than SIN, which is a pretty standard and straight process, or even Ontario Health Insurance, which is more complex process, but still very doable. The other one is related to driver license in Ontario.
Yeah.
And there are two completely opposite different scenarios depending on the country where you're coming from, or to be more precise, depending on the country of that issued your current driver license.
Right.
And in Ontario, in every province, we have different rules and regulations. So it's not a federal program; it is based on the province.
Right.
In Ontario, there is a short list, a very short list of countries that have an exchange agreement, and in this list we can see United States, United Kingdom, France,
Right.
several Asian countries, but not that many, unfortunately. And people coming from this country with agreement, they can easily go to drive test and get the local driver license, let's say in 30, 40 minutes, not longer. It's very simple. But in other case, if you arrive from a different country, not in the list, not having the agreement, the process is more lengthy. It's a multi-step process, and it requires a really good preparation. Otherwise, there might be a risk of having a long 1 year gap in driving. When you arrive, you're still legally allowed to drive for 60 days using your current driver license. But after 60 days, you're supposed to switch to the local one.
Right.
And for having a chance, for doing so, you need to pass through the knowledge test, drive test, eye test, and they treat you as some kind of new driver.
Yeah.
If you had a previous experience.
Well, we have the graduation system, right?
Your job and our common task to convince the drive test about your previous driving experience.
Yeah.
Because with the help of this, you can get to the road test almost immediately.
Yeah.
Without this documentation, there will be a 1 year gap.
And that's a big
And
consideration
that's
as well.
critical.
And again, coming back to the, rental property and everything is the one major factor which I asked over here, are you going to drive or not, right?
Right.
Because if they're going in the downtown and which they don't need it, they can only rent a car, plus they're going to need the parking or not. So it's very relevant.
Also, sorry for interrupting. We
Yeah.
all know this new scenario because it happened quite recently during the pandemic and after the pandemic. But if previously, most of the time,
Right.
there was one factor for home search, a very precise one, like distance to the office,
Right.
commute time.
Right.
But now, in many cases, we realize that it's a work from home concept. And it means there is no limitation. So
For sure.
technically, a person can live even not in Toronto, but in a very far away town. It still works, and it just one factor or lack of one factor, it changes the whole story a lot.
Right. Well, it's that's true. Like, and everything has come to where you're going to live. You're going to need a transit or not, and the other important factor is school. Right, when they're coming with the family,
Right.
for kids, they want the best education because that's most of the time. Like, that's the great thing about Canada. Provide like a best education to great school systems over here, both public and private.
Here we have a lot to say about schools because there are so many choices, and overall the education in Canada is really good. Both
And some of the packages I
elementary
know
and
that you're
higher
helping them in
education, yes.
finding the right school and getting that set up as well, right, when you're doing it.
Once again, based very much on personal priorities
Right, is right,
and
yeah.
preferences, because we can talk about private schools, we can talk about public schools or Catholic schools, and there are so many choices, and every single town there are different choices of schools, and each time we check in the ranking, each time we check in the location, so we can provide a short list of best choices, and then you just need to decide which one you want to go.
Yeah.
And not going into very much details, many people are asking what is the first priority, what is the second priority, how to start. Should we find the home first and then looking for school, or should we start from school search and then switch to home search? I would say it can be very different strategy depending on what kind of school you're looking for. Because if
for
you're
sure.
looking for private school,
Yeah.
I believe you should start from selecting the school. But
Right.
if we're talking about public schools, it's much more logic. It's much more doable to start from finding the right home.
I will interrupt
And
on that
the
one
school
because
will be there.
it depending upon how they see the education system as well.
Yep.
A lot of people get hang on their ranking system because that's what they research, It's need to be like a more than 8, and a lot of like South Asian people come. They always focus on there. It's not against any
Ranking
other
is
ones,
just
right?
a starting point.
But the ranking is like,
it's not everything.
Yeah, I don't know. Like ranking is kind of overrated in my opinion. I do remember like one of our clients actually. He went to one of the school, and the reason they asked like why is school doing great, and they say, well, certain community because over here, and I felt like really
Yes.
that's a VP saying from the school like that way. That's a ranking. The honest thing is like because education is same curriculum and everything. It's all depending upon the individual teacher and the school environment, the principal, and definitely it's combination of all that stuff. Everybody wants to go to the best school, but the biggest challenge happens over here near the best school. They're not necessarily the best houses.
Right.
So depending upon like what their priorities is, and
It
that's
has to
what
be very balanced.
it's
a
need to be
combination of
balanced
factors.
approach,
Yes.
because that's what we interview when I do the interview and I look into that. What are your priorities? You're not going to get everything in one place. We'll be lucky in that way. You want a busy life.
True.
You don't. You want to live in downtown, and then you said, well, I also want my school to be best, and maybe you not get the place there because it's full. However, like they accept every student coming in. They even we have to go to the other school, and then you're looking also the commute time. Are you going to drop off, or are you going to pick up? Who's going to do that? So all those considerations like make it help me understand what you're going to need. And a lot of time, like they have no idea because they're coming in over here with the idea that everything is going to be, simple. But when we do that, like it's helped me where we'll suggest them and giving the options. Do you want to live in Oakville? Do you want to live in Mississauga? Or do you want to look, more suburb? So all depending upon, like you said, like it's a tailor-made, and that's how we tailor-made on that, like, where you're going to do. And they rely on our suggestion.
You reminded me about one of the most typical questions we get frequently from people when they start asking, okay, what is the best place to live, or what is the best town to live? And in fact, there is no right answer because even if I love the town where I live, and it is still my choice. Mm-hmm. If it works for me, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean necessarily that it works in the same way for you, because you can have very different priorities, and it doesn't fit into your list of priorities. So it is possible to reply to this question only after a deep conversation about your own lifestyle. And the more we understand about your lifestyle and your expectations, the easier will be the choice, and the easier will be the shorter will be the recommendation list.
Oh, for sure. Like, and that's the thing is like the key is in preparation. A lot of time people come in. I don't even send the listings to them, like, as you notice, until I have all that information. And even after that.
But still, what is important to say, in a typical scenario, we start to share listings pretty early, not when you arrive in Canada, but at least 2 weeks before their arrival. For one reason, technically you cannot get any of the properties from these preliminary listings yet, because you're physically not here, you don't have a local bank account, no money for deposit there, etc., etc. But we keep doing this for one reason, because with the real listings shared up front, you have a great chance to get the initial knowledge about the market, to understand the trends, and to see some examples, some good samples, what can be, what you can get for this budget.
Right.
And then with this kind of knowledge, with this kind of preparation, as soon as you arrive, you open the account fast, and in 1 week, usually on the second week, we can start the showing program already based on the real listings.
Well, the main reason for that, like, thank you for sharing that information in a little bit detail how the process work over here. But the other reason over here, because soon they like the property, And that I love to do narrow down, and most of them, like a 95% of the success we had is even we showing because we so narrow down what their needs are, what kind of house they're going to like. We're probably showing like in one day 5 or 6 showings.
5 or 6 usually,
properties,
yes,
and they
it works because out of 5 or 6 you have 2 or 3 great choices, and that's it. What you're looking for.
Yeah.
And we save lots of your time, and you can get the property fast. There is no point to go and look into 20 or 30 properties. It doesn't work really well, because after the first 10 you will start feeling a bit crazy and dizzy and overloaded, and you start losing details. It doesn't work, trust me.
Yeah.
But
and
5
that's the
or
thing
6 is good, and
Yeah.
If the choices are there, why not?
It's concierge service. That's what I consider that. It's providing to our clients. And also because they get confused. And in this market, and we know like sometime it happens, we're showing the 10 listings and first book a showing.
Yep.
And after that happens, like by the time I get the confirmation, everything, turn out like it's only left 5. So sometimes if we do like a little bit, okay, this is your primary one, which you will love it by looking into the pictures and other details, but also keep it the secondary one, like where you can say, okay, I can compromise on certain things if I don't get it, because sometimes the time span is pretty less. Sometimes you get company has put them in temporary housing or service housing, and they have some time and there's some flexibility. And sometimes also the challenge happens, they have too much time. And then they cannot make up mind until it comes closer. It's
harder to make a choice.
Yeah,
yes.
it's a make a choice.
Because each time there is some kind of illusion on the background that, there might be something better.
Right.
It's coming. But this kind of thing, it might become an endless process, and it doesn't help.
Well, we talk about a lot of process and everything.
You didn't mention one factor about the real estate market, and I believe it's highly important to explain this, that you explained how the prices are increasing, but at the same time, it keeps being very competitive and very dynamic. In many cases, there is a multi-offer situation, multi-offer scenario.
Yeah.
But Vishal is a great negotiator, and he knows pretty well how to win the battle, and we did it many times.
It's a promotion. He's biased, okay, and I can tell, sometime it happens how much you fight for me, when the person is not understanding the concept and how we approach things, how we make it better, and that's what the great partnership is. When we talking about each other, and I feel half of the job you do for me.
Just because we do understand that in some cases people get into trouble.
Yes.
Our job is not to let them understand this, is to take them away out of the trouble smoothly.
Right. Yeah.
And of course, you never seen the big portion of the backstage work.
Yeah.
And this is right, this is great, but in fact, it's a complex business process behind it. But you see what you see. You see just the front side, which looks pretty light and easy, which is great.
I really appreciate that. I know, I pretty appreciate that, and I'm glad, because looking into your dedication to this relocation services, I really wanted to grow, and at the same time say how we can offer these services to people privately as well, who are just immigrating over here, sometime without the job.
Before offering that, we still need, I haven't completed your question about what is included, what is the scope of services we provide.
Yeah. Sorry. Absolutely. Yeah, so that's what I was coming to, because that's your company. Right. We talk about Prime Destination Services, and Prime Destination Service covering all those things. So I thought that's a good opportunity to look into that, and what kind of other services you provide. I can count out some of them and fill me up if it more. Area view, that's what you do.
I would suggest to make it even differently, because we can start answering not from the scope of services and the list of services, but on the opposite side, what we do not do. Because if we talk about what we do, what we can do, it's much longer.
I agree. And like a lot of time, people
there
have
are some exceptions still, exceptions based on the legal side, exceptions based on the fact we don't have license, for example, for immigration services.
Yeah, so you don't do the immigration services, right?
Not that directly.
But we do have partners like in our referral.
We can take care about
them.
this, but
not
because
partners.
We have a net.
I shouldn't say the partners. I would say like we refer to them.
It's
like
a network.
It's a network of
it's
people.
A professional network, and we work only with trusted companies. We never work with new companies, so we are not experimenting with that. If we can recommend you someone like immigration lawyers or immigration consultants, it will be based on previous experience, which is great. Right. Also, we cannot go too deep into tax and legal advice. We're not making translation services ourselves. But when I'm saying that we're not doing something, it still doesn't mean we cannot arrange this and involve some third parties with
if it required
good reputation.
If it's required. And you yourself, like you speak, how many languages you speak?
Three.
And those
it's
are
English, Russian, and Spanish somehow.
And you do some French as well, no?
Not yet.
Okay.
I can barely understand, but
I know.
When
I'm talking about like you swear in French, I'm just kidding.
And my Hindi is in progress.
Oh, right. Yeah, Hindi is like, all he says like, acha, right? Yeah. So that's the fun joke between us. And I really, what the other thing is like, I really enjoy working with you, that you're so curious about other cultures.
That's easy for me, to be honest, because I really enjoy this matter. I really love the subject called cultural differences. I read lots of books in my previous life, in my previous career, and I used to work long years in marketing and advertising business, and I had customers from many countries and many different cultures, so it was some kind of natural environment for
and
me
a lot
on
about
daily basis.
Even though you don't speak their language,
even with customers from Japan, Japanese.
Oh my God!
When they arrived one day, I was already quite experienced in business, but in one day I understood that I know nothing about this life, and I had to read a lot just to get the right impression.
And that's why I said the amount of preparation you do.
And it's cool. It's not boring, because it makes you richer. You get so many new knowledge, and you get so many little details coming from different cultures, so it's an exciting process.
Well, coming to that point, because you know so many cultures and everything, but they moving over here to one culture which they don't know. So, do the primary destination service or services you provide that cultural education as well?
Some sort of, yes, and we have some kind of presentations. We can share slides explaining this. We can also make a proper online or
how things work in Canada, right?
How things work in Canada. We also can recommend some funny books about Canadian mentality that explain a lot and helps to adapt yourself to the local environment. But to be more precise and more serious about services, so what we really do, we always provide pre-arrival, pre-departure consulting and help with preparations. We can arrange airport meet and greet. We can arrange.
You mean like a pick up and drop?
Yes, we can arrange area tours. We can help with the short-term accommodation, which is a different sort of challenge in Toronto. We definitely work closely, precisely on home search and the lease deal.
Home search is my rest of is your
It's a
department.
big portion, one of the biggest portion in the service. Of course, it's a home search. Also, very important part of the work is related to school search, as we discussed, and finding the best school, the right school for your children. It's a vital, important factor. And we help them with finding family doctors, car leasing. We can consult on new business in the area. We can bring you closer to the local chamber of commerce, for example, and do many things in terms of introductions to the local community. And some kind of job search advice. Once again, we are not a headhunting agency. We are not a job search agency, but still we can help you to set up the right strategy for your local job search in this country. And various local services tell us what you need. That's the approach.
And that's why, like you mentioned, it's like the tailor-made.
You will be covered, yes.
Yeah, and sometime I get sometimes say like, yeah, we can help you with that, right? So it's like I feel like somebody is coming with my family or friend is coming over here, and we're just helping them, explaining everything how things work.
I can tell you because it is one of my best, one of the most favorite quotes from one of the movies with Sean Connery when he says, it is impossible but doable. That's the thing we're trying to apply to everything we do at Prime Destination.
Well, that's a great quote, and that's coming to our end to our episode over here, relocating to Canada and what things you need to know and what kind of services you will be required. So thank you for watching.
I have the final phrase too.
All right. Yeah. Won't let me.
Just welcome to Canada.
Yes. Well, so again, like I said, welcome to Canada. If you need any services, you can reach out to Sergei. But here we're not we're just softly promoting that services because a lot of people require that service. But coming to that point, thanks for watching and getting some valuable insight from the relocation world and what are the challenges you can face when you're moving to Canada. We are available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, do subscribe to know more about real estate wisdom, anything other professions which is connected to real estate. Ultimately, you can get some value from that. And don't forget to give your comments as well, and what other topics you want us to cover related to real estate. Be happy to discuss because I have a wide network of people and I love to get their insight from their mouth and recycle that knowledge and share it with you. So thank you for watching. This is Vishal Kapoor, Realtor, your friend in real estate, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Disclaimer. The information provided in this podcast is for informational purpose only and should not be considered as financial or investment advice. Consult with your professional before making any real estate decisions.